When a simple hug from a stranger awakens a father to the love his daughter truly needs, everything he thought he knew about parenting and family is turned upside down. The billionaire dad was not the type to take much time off from his work. His days were packed with meetings, phone calls, and endless emails. He had everything that money could buy: luxury cars, a huge house, private jets, but there was one thing that money could never replace: time with his daughter. She was his little girl, full of curiosity and sweetness, and yet she barely saw him during the week. Most of the time, she spent her afternoons with a nanny or at school activities. He knew he was missing out on moments, but work always seemed more urgent. This particular day, he decided to do something different. He wanted to take his daughter out for lunch, just the two of them, without any distractions. It was unusual for him, and he felt a little nervous about it. He didn't know if she would enjoy sitting in a quiet restaurant with him, or if she would feel awkward being out with someone as busy and serious as her dad. Still, he reminded himself that this was important. She deserved his attention, and maybe, just maybe, he could learn something about her world that he didn't know. They arrived at a small diner tucked in a quiet part of town. It was nothing like the fancy restaurants he usually went to. The chairs were simple. The tables had scratches from years of use, and the smell of coffee and fresh bread filled the air. Despite all this, the daughter's eyes lit up. She loved places like this: simple, cozy, and full of warmth. She didn't care about expensive decor or a celebrity chef. She cared about people in small moments, and she felt at home here instantly. As they sat down at a corner table, he noticed how she kept glancing around at the other people. She seemed curious about everyone, observing quietly but carefully. The dad realized he had never really noticed the way she looked at the world. Always polite and thoughtful, always careful not to disturb anyone, he found himself smiling. It was rare for him to just watch and not analyze or plan. He didn't want to miss this moment. A waitress came over to take their order. She was kind and patient, smiling warmly at the little girl. The daughter, who was usually shy around strangers, smiled back and asked a question that made the billionaire dad freeze for a second. She asked softly, almost hesitantly, "Do you know my mom?" The question was simple, innocent, but it carried a weight he had not expected. His heart skipped a beat. He knew she missed her mother, but hearing her voice say it out loud in public made it feel real in a way he hadn't prepared for. The waitress didn't hesitate. She knelt slightly to be at the daughter's level and gave her a gentle hug. It was such a small gesture, but it spoke volumes. The father watched as his daughter's eyes softened, her little hands resting lightly on the waitress's shoulders. In that moment, he saw a side of his daughter that he rarely saw: her need for comfort, her longing for connection, and her ability to trust someone she had just met. The dad felt a strange mix of emotions. Part of him wanted to step in, to protect, to make everything okay as he always tried to do. But another part of him just watched, realizing that sometimes it wasn't about him. Sometimes it was about letting others be kind and letting his daughter feel safe in their care. He felt a lump in his throat, something he wasn't used to feeling in public, especially not in front of others who probably didn't even know his story. The daughter pulled back slightly from the hug and looked at the waitress with a small, grateful smile. She whispered something that the dad couldn't hear clearly, but he could see how much it meant to her. The waitress nodded and patted her on the back gently before returning to take their order. The father tried to process what he had just witnessed. He had never seen someone connect with his daughter so naturally. Without expecting anything in return, without judgment, and without the complications of wealth or power, they ordered their food. But the daughter kept glancing at the waitress every few minutes. Clearly affected by the hug and the attention, the dad noticed and felt a quiet pride in his little girl. She was kind, observant, and full of emotions, even if she often kept them hidden. He realized he'd been so focused on giving her material things that he had forgotten to give her emotional moments like this. Moments that money couldn't buy as they waited for their food. He tried to make conversation, but words felt awkward. Usually he was confident in negotiations or business meetings, but talking about feelings with his daughter felt different. He asked her about school, her friends, and her hobbies, trying to bridge the gap between their worlds. She responded shyly at first, but then slowly opened up, talking about little things that made her happy or sad. He listened, really listened, for the first time in a long while. When their food arrived, the daughter dug in with enthusiasm, clearly comfortable and happy in the moment. The father noticed the small things she did, the way she sipped her drink carefully, the way she laughed at something small and silly he said. He realized he had been missing these details in her life. For all the money, all the success, he had never noticed the little things that made her who she was. After finishing the meal, the waitress came back to check on them. She smiled at the daughter again, who returned the smile with a glow that made the father's chest tighten. He knew that this simple act of kindness, a hug and a few words, had made a bigger impact than anything he could have bought. The daughter waved goodbye to the waitress, and for a moment, he felt gratitude in a way he rarely allowed himself to feel grateful, not just for the gesture, but for the reminder of what truly mattered. As they left the diner, the father walked beside his daughter in silence, letting her hold his hand. He realized that this outing, which he had almost treated as a small break from work, had become something much bigger. It was a glimpse into the heart of his daughter, into the importance of kindness, connection, and emotional presence. The hug from the waitress was small, but its impact would stay with him and his daughter for a long time. That day, the billionaire dad understood something he had often ignored. No amount of money, power, or success could replace the feeling of being seen, understood, and cared for. He vowed silently to himself to be more present, to notice the small moments, and to let his daughter feel the love she deserved, not just in gifts or grand gestures, but in simple, human connections like the one they had just shared. The daughter looked up at him with her innocent eyes, smiling, unaware of the thoughts running through his mind. He smiled back, feeling a warmth that he hadn't felt in years. That hug, that tiny moment of kindness, had opened a door to emotional connection, understanding, and a bond that went deeper than wealth or status. He didn't know yet what would happen next, but he knew one thing for sure. Today, something had changed between him and his daughter, and it had started with a hug from a stranger who saw exactly what she needed. The waitress, whose name was Emily, had been working at the small diner for several years. She knew most of the regular customers by name, and she had a way of noticing things that others often overlooked. She had seen countless children come and go, but there was something about the billionaire's daughter that caught her attention immediately. There was a quiet sadness in the girl's eyes, a longing that Emily had learned to recognize over the years. She had a gentle way of connecting with children, a natural empathy that made them feel safe and understood. The daughter, feeling comforted by the hug, began to open up in a way she rarely did. She talked softly about missing her mom, her words hesitant at first, but gaining confidence as Emily listened. She mentioned small memories, the way her mom used to tuck her in at night, read her stories, and sing songs just for her. Each memory brought a small smile to her face, but also a shadow of sadness. The billionaire dad, sitting across the table, watched quietly. He had never heard his daughter speak so openly about her feelings. Most of the time, she was careful not to show vulnerability around him. Knowing he was always busy or preoccupied, Emily listened patiently, nodding and offering small words of comfort. She didn't try to fix the situation or offer advice. She simply acknowledged the daughter's feelings. She understood that sometimes what children need most is not solutions, but someone who sees them, who listens, and who makes them feel that their emotions are valid. The daughter leaned into Emily slightly, feeling the warmth and care in a way that was new and comforting. The father noticed a shift in his daughter's demeanor. She was lighter, more relaxed, and more willing to share little thoughts and observations. He realized that the hug had been more than just a simple gesture. It had been a bridge, connecting his daughter to someone who could offer her emotional support. He felt a mixture of admiration and surprise. He admired Emily's kindness and the ease with which she had made his daughter feel safe. He was surprised because he had never imagined that a stranger could have such a positive impact on their lives. As they continued to talk, Emily asked gentle questions, prompting the daughter to share more about her feelings. She didn't push, but she created a space where the daughter felt comfortable expressing herself. The father remained mostly quiet, observing, but he was learning. He realized that he had spent so much time focusing on providing material comforts that he had neglected the emotional needs of his child. Watching this interaction, he understood the importance of empathy, patience, and simple human connection. The daughter mentioned small worries she had, things that seemed insignificant to an adult but were important to her. She worried about school projects, making friends, and sometimes feeling left out. Emily listened attentively, acknowledging each concern without judgment. She offered words of encouragement, reminding the daughter that her feelings mattered and that she was not alone. The father felt a pang of guilt as he realized how little he had been aware of these everyday struggles in his daughter's life. After a while, the daughter grew more comfortable. She laughed at a small joke Emily made, a sound that filled the diner with warmth. The father had rarely heard that kind of pure, unrestrained laughter from his daughter in recent months. It struck him how a simple act of kindness, a hug, a listening ear, and genuine attention could bring out such joy. He made a silent promise to himself to try to be that person for her more often, to create moments of connection rather than just moments of convenience or entertainment. Emily shared a little about herself, carefully, without overwhelming the daughter with too much information. She mentioned her love for reading, her interest in helping others, and a few personal experiences that showed the daughter she was not alone in feeling sadness or missing someone special. The daughter listened intently, absorbing the stories, and in turn began to open up more. She spoke about her hopes, small dreams, and even fears. The billionaire dad felt a mix of pride and surprise. Pride in how strong and thoughtful his daughter was, and surprise at how much he had been missing simply by not paying attention. During their conversation, the daughter's vulnerability continued to shine through. She asked questions about life, about love, and about happiness. Emily answered with gentle honesty, giving simple truths without overcomplicating things. She encouraged the daughter to express herself, to trust her feelings, and to remember that it was okay to feel sad, to miss someone, and to seek comfort in others. The father realized that Emily was teaching his daughter lessons he could not provide through money, power, or authority, lessons about empathy, trust, and emotional courage. The father began to reflect on his own experiences. He remembered his wife and how she had always been emotionally present for their daughter. He remembered the small routines, the bedtime stories, the laughter, and the shared tears. He realized that these moments had shaped their daughter into the thoughtful, sensitive girl she was today. Emily's presence reminded him of what he had lost and what he needed to regain: genuine connection, emotional availability, and understanding. As the lunch progressed, the bond between Emily and the daughter became more evident. The little gestures, a smile, a nod, a shared laugh, created a sense of safety and trust. The daughter leaned on Emily in small ways, showing that she felt understood and supported. The father watched, sometimes with tears threatening to form, realizing that these simple human interactions could have a profound effect on his daughter's happiness and confidence. The father decided to join the conversation more actively, carefully at first. He asked questions, shared thoughts, and even allowed himself to be vulnerable. He told his daughter that he admired her courage and that he wished he had spent more time understanding her feelings. The daughter looked at him with wide eyes, surprised but pleased. It was a new experience for her, seeing her father open up emotionally rather than just being a provider of material comforts. Emily noticed the father's attempts to engage and smiled warmly. She subtly encouraged him, making it clear that his presence and attention were appreciated. She understood that his involvement mattered just as much as hers, and that by guiding him gently, she could help strengthen the bond between father and daughter. The father felt a growing respect for Emily, realizing that her kindness and patience were teaching him important lessons about love and attention. By the end is the lunch. The atmosphere at the table had completely changed. What had started as a simple outing had transformed into a meaningful interaction full of empathy, trust, and connection. The daughter was visibly happier, more relaxed, and glowing with a sense of being understood. The father felt a deep sense of gratitude, both for Emily's presence and for the opportunity to witness this transformation in his daughter. As they left the diner, The father walked beside his daughter, holding her hand firmly, but gently. He felt a shift inside himself, a desire to be more than just a provider, to be emotionally present and involved in her life. The daughter skipped slightly, smiling and laughing at something Emily had said before they left. The father smiled too, feeling a warmth he hadn't realized he was missing for so long. He silently promised himself that this would not be a one-time experience. He would take the lessons he had learned today, patience, empathy, and genuine listening, and apply them in his daily life. He wanted his daughter to know that she could always come to him with her feelings, that he would be there for her not just with gifts and luxuries, but with understanding, love, and attention. The lunch had been more than just a meal. It had been a turning point, a moment where the father realized that the smallest gestures, like a hug from a kind stranger, could have a bigger impact than anything money could buy. The daughter had felt cared for, understood, and valued, and the father had witnessed firsthand the power of emotional connection. He knew that Emily had given his daughter something invaluable, a sense of comfort and security in a world that often felt overwhelming. Walking back to their car, the father glanced at his daughter. She was full of life, laughter, and hope. He felt a renewed determination to be the father she needed, not just in material ways, but in emotional ones. The memory of the hug, the gentle words, and the genuine attention would stay with him forever, reminding him that love and kindness were far more important than wealth or status. The billionaire dad had been thinking about the lunch for hours after leaving the diner. The way Emily, the waitress, had connected with his daughter stayed in his mind. He couldn't stop replaying the scene, the gentle hug, the warmth in her voice, and the way his daughter had smiled as if she had finally been understood. Normally, he would have brushed it off as a simple act of kindness, but something about it felt different. There was a depth to the interaction, a feeling that it had opened a door he hadn't realized was closed in his own family. The next day, he decided to return to the diner, not just to thank Emily, but to learn more about her. He wanted to understand how someone so ordinary, by his standards, could make such an extraordinary impact on his daughter. When he arrived, he found Emily serving customers as usual, her cheerful energy filling the small space. She looked surprised to see him but greeted him politely. The dad asked to speak with her privately, and she agreed. Curious about his intentions, once they were away from the other customers, he thanked her for the hug she had given his daughter. He explained that it meant more than she could imagine and that he wanted to understand how she knew exactly what his daughter needed. Emily smiled softly and explained that she had worked with children for years and had learned to read small cues, changes in posture, the tone of voice, and eye contact. She said she could sense when a child needed comfort, even if they didn't know how to ask for it themselves. The dad listened intently, impressed by her insight and experience. But as the conversation continued, Emily hesitated for a moment, then shared something unexpected. She mentioned that she had known his late wife. The billionaire dad froze, trying to process her words. Emily explained that she and his wife had met through a local community program years ago. They had worked together to help children in need and had shared stories about their families. The realization hit him hard. This was not a random act of kindness. It was a connection rooted in history, in shared experiences, and in a genuine understanding of his daughter's needs. The daughter, meanwhile, had been telling small stories about her school and her friends. Unaware that her father was about to discover a piece of family history, she had grown attached to Emily, trusting her in a way that he hadn't seen with anyone outside of the family. Watching his daughter speak openly about small joys and fears, the dad realized how important it was for her to have someone like Emily in her life, someone who understood her emotions without judgment, someone who could fill a gap he hadn't known how to reach. As Emily shared more, the billionaire dad began to understand why his daughter had responded so strongly to her hug. Emily knew the daughter's mother, knew the warmth she had tried to give, and had instinctively offered a piece of that same comfort. It wasn't just kindness. It was familiarity, an echo of love that the daughter had been missing. The dad felt a mixture of relief and astonishment. Relief that his daughter had someone who could offer emotional support, and astonishment at how intertwined their lives were in ways he had never expected. Conversation took a deeper turn when Emily mentioned that she had occasionally heard about the daughter's challenges from mutual friends in the community. She had followed her progress quietly, always hoping to offer help when needed. The billionaire dad felt a mix of gratitude and guilt. Gratitude for Emily's kindness and attentiveness, and guilt for not being more present in his daughter's life despite all his resources. He realized that emotional presence could not be bought, and he had been missing the most important parts of his daughter's childhood. Emily noticed the father's reaction and spoke gently, reminding him that it was never too late to change, to be more attentive, and to build a deeper relationship with his daughter. She encouraged him to see these small moments, the shared stories, the laughter, the subtle gestures of care as opportunities to connect. The father listened, feeling a quiet determination forming inside him. He wanted to be more than just a provider. He wanted to be a father who truly understood and supported his daughter. Later that week, the father invited Emily to a small gathering at his home, not as a formal event, but as an opportunity for the daughter and Emily to spend more time together in a safe, comfortable environment. The daughter was overjoyed at the idea, her excitement palpable. The father observed quietly, noting how his daughter's face lit up whenever Emily was near. He realized that he was witnessing the growth of a bond that could have a lasting impact on his daughter's emotional well-being. During the visit, Emily shared small stories from her own life, lessons she had learned, and advice about handling feelings in relationships. The daughter listened intently, absorbing every word. The father was amazed at how naturally Emily communicated with his daughter, offering wisdom in a way that felt effortless and sincere. He understood that this kind of guidance was invaluable, something he had never been able to provide consistently due to his busy lifestyle. As the evening went on, the billionaire dad found himself reflecting on his own behavior. He remembered moments he had missed, times when his daughter had wanted attention or reassurance, and he hadn't been there. He felt regret, but he also felt hope. Hope that with Emily's presence and his renewed commitment, he could build stronger, more meaningful connections with his daughter. He realized that the past could not be changed, but the future was still in his hands. The daughter, sensing the father's change in demeanor, began to open up even more. She shared small fears, moments of happiness, and her hopes for the future. The father listened without interruption, offering comfort and encouragement where needed. He noticed how the simple act of listening, really listening, created trust and closeness. He had thought that providing for her materially was enough, but he now understood that emotional presence was equally, if not more important. Emily quietly observed the interactions, pleased with the progress. She knew that the father was beginning to grasp the depth of his daughter's needs, and she encouraged the bond through subtle gestures and supportive conversation. She didn't dominate the interaction, but rather facilitated, allowing the father and daughter to grow closer while maintaining her own positive influence. As the evening ended, the daughter hugged Emily tightly, thanking her for everything. The father felt a surge of emotion, realizing that Emily had not only helped his daughter feel seen and understood, but she had also inspired him to become a more attentive and loving parent. He thanked her sincerely, promising to continue the lessons he had learned, to prioritize emotional connection, to listen more, and to be present in his daughter's life. Walking home that night, the father reflected on the day's events. He understood that the bond between Emily and his daughter was not just a fleeting moment of kindness, but a meaningful relationship that would have lasting effects. He felt grateful, determined, and hopeful. He knew that this connection would help his daughter grow with confidence, empathy, and a sense of security that money could never provide. He also realized that his own transformation had begun. Witnessing Emily's care and understanding had shown him a path forward, a way to balance his busy life with genuine attention to his daughter's emotional needs. He felt a renewed commitment to being a present, loving, and understanding father, ready to embrace the challenges and joys of parenthood fully. That night, as the daughter fell asleep, the father sat quietly, thinking about the lessons he had learned. He understood that sometimes help comes from unexpected places, and that small acts of kindness can create profound changes. He knew that Emily had not only touched his daughter's life, but also his own, teaching him the true value of empathy, patience, and human connection. The next morning, he woke up determined to act on what he had learned. He reached out to Emily again, not just to thank her, but to involve her in his daughter's life more consistently. He wanted to ensure that his daughter had the support she needed and that he was there to provide love, guidance, and attention in ways he hadn't before. He felt a sense of purpose and clarity, knowing that the bond forming between Emily and his daughter would shape the family's future in a positive, meaningful way. The billionaire dad had been thinking a lot about the connection between his daughter and Emily, the waitress. He could see how much his daughter trusted her and how naturally Emily knew how to comfort her. At first, he felt grateful, but soon he realized that he was also facing a challenge. He had never allowed anyone else to be so close to his daughter, especially someone outside the family. A part of him wanted to protect her, to make sure no one could influence her in ways he didn't approve of. That instinct had served him well in business. But parenting required a different kind of judgment. The father decided to spend more time at home with his daughter, to observe her interactions and see how much Emily's presence mattered. He noticed small changes that made him both proud and worried. She smiled more often, laughed more freely, and even spoke more openly about her feelings. But at the same time, he felt a sense of insecurity. He wondered if he had been absent for too long, if the gaps in their relationship could ever be fully repaired, or if Emily's influence might overshadow his own role as a parent. He realized he needed to act carefully. He couldn't control how his daughter felt about Emily, and he didn't want to. Instead, he needed to find a way to be present and supportive, while also allowing her to benefit from Emily's kindness. This balancing act was new to him. He had always relied on authority and resources to manage situations. But parenting required something different: patience, understanding, and emotional intelligence. One afternoon, while his daughter was playing in the living room, he noticed her quietly making a small craft, something she had learned from Emily during their visits. He watched her carefully, seeing the concentration and joy in her eyes. The realization hit him. Emily was not just comforting his daughter emotionally. She was helping her grow creatively, encouraging her to explore her thoughts and feelings in ways he hadn't thought about. The father felt a mix of admiration for Emily and a renewed sense of responsibility for his daughter at the same time. He started noticing patterns in his daughter's behavior. She would talk about little memories of her mother, moments that seemed random but were clearly meaningful to her. She would ask subtle questions about life, love, and relationships, trying to make sense of her emotions. The father realized that these were opportunities, chances for him to connect, to teach, and to guide her in ways he had neglected before. He felt both nervous and determined, understanding that he could no longer rely on money or status to build their relationship. He needed to be emotionally present. Emily continued to visit, sometimes casually, sometimes at the father's request. Each interaction was a learning experience for him. He observed how she listened, how she asked gentle questions, and how she offered reassurance without judgment. The father tried to mimic her approach, asking his daughter about her feelings, encouraging her to share, and responding with patience instead of immediate solutions. It was difficult at first. He was used to quick decisions and clear outcomes, not open-ended emotional conversations. But he persisted, knowing the impact was worth the effort. One evening, the father noticed a subtle tension between his daughter and another child at school. She mentioned it quietly, unsure how to handle the situation. The father saw an opportunity to teach her problem-solving and emotional coping skills. He guided her through the situation carefully. Drawing on lessons he had learned from Emily, he explained that understanding someone else's feelings, communicating clearly, and setting boundaries were all important. The daughter listened intently, practicing patience and empathy, while the father felt a sense of pride in her growth. However, the process was not without challenges. The father sometimes felt frustrated with himself, realizing how much time he had lost and how difficult it was to change old habits. There were moments when he slipped back into controlling behavior, trying to solve problems too quickly or protect his daughter in ways that weren't helpful. Emily noticed these moments and subtly encouraged him to step back, reminding him that the daughter needed space to learn, grow, and build confidence. He gradually learned to trust both his daughter and Emily, understanding that support did not mean taking over, but guiding with care. A turning point came when the daughter faced a small but meaningful disappointment. Something had not gone as she hoped at school, and she felt discouraged. The father watched as she struggled with her feelings, unsure how to respond. He remembered Emily's approach, patient, empathetic, and encouraging, and tried to emulate it. He sat with her, listened to her worries, and reassured her without judgment. He encouraged her to see the lesson in the situation, to understand her emotions, and to move forward with confidence. The daughter's eyes brightened as she realized she was understood, and the father felt a deep sense of accomplishment. Over time, the bond between the father and daughter grew stronger. They shared more meals together, spent evenings talking, and found joy in simple activities like walking in the park or reading stories. Emily remained a supportive presence, visiting occasionally and offering guidance when needed. The father realized that her influence had not diminished his role. Rather, it had strengthened it by showing him how to connect, how to listen, and how to be emotionally available. The father also began to reflect on his own life and choices. He thought about his busy schedule, the countless hours spent in meetings, and the many moments he had missed with his daughter. He realized that wealth and success were meaningless without meaningful relationships. This awareness motivated him to restructure his life, making room for his daughter and prioritizing moments of connection over work or status. The daughter noticed the change in her father. She felt safer expressing her feelings, asking questions, and sharing experiences. She began to open up about her dreams and fears more freely. The father, in turn, learned to respond with empathy, patience, and encouragement. He understood that being a good parent was not about perfection or control, but about presence, understanding, and love. Emily's continued presence reinforced these lessons. She occasionally shared insights with the father about how children develop emotionally, helping him navigate situations he had never faced. She offered subtle advice, showing him how to foster confidence, empathy, and resilience in his daughter. The father appreciated her guidance and began to see her as a trusted ally in raising his child. Despite the progress, challenges still arose. The father sometimes struggled with his protective instincts, wanting to shield his daughter from disappointment or hurt. He learned, however, that setbacks were part of growth and that resilience was built through experience, not avoidance. He began to guide his daughter gently, helping her understand her emotions and make thoughtful decisions, while allowing her the freedom to learn from her own experiences. As weeks turned into months, the transformation in their relationship became clear. The daughter was happier, more confident, and more open. The father felt a sense of fulfillment he had never experienced. Realizing that emotional connection could bring a deeper joy than any material success, he understood that Emily had played a crucial role in this growth, not by replacing him, but by teaching him how to be present, patient, and understanding. The father reflected on how much he had learned from these experiences. He realized that parenting required humility, emotional intelligence, and a willingness to change. He understood that his daughter's happiness depended not on wealth or status, but on love, presence, and genuine connection. He felt grateful for Emily's guidance and the opportunity to witness his daughter's growth firsthand. One evening, after a particularly joyful day spent together, the father sat with his daughter and reflected on their journey. They talked about school, dreams, and memories, and he realized that the bond they had built was strong and resilient. He understood that challenges would continue to arise, but with patience, empathy, and guidance, they could navigate anything together. He also recognized the importance of gratitude. He felt grateful for Emily, whose simple acts of kindness had sparked this transformation. He was grateful for his daughter, whose courage, openness, and curiosity had inspired him to change. And he was grateful for himself, for realizing that it was never too late to grow, learn, and become a better parent. The father felt a renewed sense of purpose. He decided to continue prioritizing emotional presence in his daughter's life, creating moments of connection, joy, and understanding. He wanted her to grow with confidence, empathy, and a sense of security that money alone could never provide. The lessons he had learned through Emily and his daughter's openness would guide him in shaping and nurturing loving and supportive environment for years to come. The father's transformation was ongoing, and he knew it would not be perfect. There would still be challenges, moments of doubt, and times when he might falter. But he also knew that he was committed to being present, understanding, and loving, and that this commitment would make a lasting difference in his daughter's life. The daughter sensed the change in her father and responded with warmth, trust, and affection. She felt safe to express herself, knowing that her feelings were valid and her voice was heard. The father felt a deep sense of fulfillment, understanding that the journey they were on together was shaping not just their relationship, but their entire family's future. Emily remained a quiet, supportive presence, offering guidance when needed, but allowing the father and daughter to grow together. The father realized that her role had been essential, not only in helping his daughter feel loved and understood, but in teaching him how to become a better parent. He felt gratitude, respect, and admiration for her, knowing that her kindness had changed their lives in ways he could never have imagined. The billionaire dad woke up that morning with a sense of calm he had not felt in years. Over the past months, he had watched his daughter grow in ways he had never imagined, and he had grown alongside her. Her trust, her laughter, and her openness had transformed him. He had learned patience, empathy, and the power of simply being present. Today felt like a new beginning, a chance to solidify the bonds he had been building and to create a life where love and connection mattered more than wealth or business success. He decided to start the day with a simple gesture. He prepared breakfast for his daughter himself, something he had rarely done before. He watched her eyes light up when she saw pancakes on the table, her favorite, arranged with care. She smiled at him, a wide, trusting smile, and he felt warmth spread through him. This small act, simple and ordinary, felt monumental. He realized that it wasn't the grand gestures or expensive gifts that mattered most, but these everyday moments where love was shown through attention and effort. After breakfast, he suggested they take a walk in a nearby park, just the two of them. The daughter was thrilled. She held his hand tightly as they strolled, pointing out flowers, birds, and little things she noticed along the way. The father listened, genuinely interested, asking questions and encouraging her observations. It struck him how much he had missed in her life simply because he had been too busy or distracted to notice. Every word she said, every small story she shared, was a piece of her world he had been absent from for too long. Emily's presence had continued to play a quiet but important role in their lives. She had become a trusted friend and guide for the daughter, someone who offered comfort, understanding, and wisdom. The father understood that her influence had not replaced him, but had instead shown him how to connect emotionally, how to listen, and how to guide with patience and care. Her example had taught him that parenting was not about control, but about nurturing trust and confidence. That afternoon, he invited Emily over to spend time with his daughter. When she arrived, the daughter ran to her, hugging her tightly. The father watched, feeling a mix of gratitude and awe. He realized that Emily's consistent kindness had created a sense of security for his daughter, allowing her to open up fully. Seeing the bond between them, he understood that emotional support and genuine care could be more powerful than any material gift he could provide. During the visit, they all sat together in the living room. The daughter eagerly shared stories about school, friends, and little adventures, her voice full of excitement. Emily listened with patience and warmth, asking gentle questions and offering encouragement. The father joined in, sometimes asking questions, sometimes simply listening. He felt a deep sense of fulfillment watching these two important people in his daughter's life interact. He realized that love and connection were not limited. They could grow and expand through trust and attention. At one point, the daughter asked a question that made the father pause. She wanted to know why he had been so busy and why he hadn't always been there for her. She asked gently, without anger, but with curiosity. The father took a deep breath and answered honestly. He explained that work had consumed him, that he had thought he was providing for her by giving her everything she could need materially. But he had realized that what she really needed was time, attention, and understanding. The daughter listened intently, her eyes reflecting a mixture of understanding and relief. Emily smiled softly, encouraging the conversation without dominating it. She had taught the father how to create a safe space where his daughter could express herself freely. He realized that this approach was not just about comfort. It was about teaching resilience, empathy, and confidence. By listening and responding with care, he could help his daughter navigate emotions and challenges in a way he had never attempted before. Over the next few hours, the three of them engaged in activities that strengthened their bond. They worked on a craft project, played a simple board game, and shared stories. The father noticed small gestures, the way his daughter sought his approval, the way she laughed at Emily's jokes, and the way all three of them seemed to share a sense of harmony and understanding. He felt a profound sense of joy, realizing that these moments were the true treasures of life. As the evening approached, the father reflected on the journey that had brought them here. He remembered the first lunch at the diner, the hug from Emily, and the way his daughter had slowly opened up. He realized how much had changed, not just for his daughter, but for himself. He had learned to listen, to be present, and to value emotional connection over control or material provision. He understood that being a parent was an ongoing journey, one that required patience, humility, and love. The daughter, sensing her father's reflection, reached for his hand and squeezed it. He looked down and saw the trust, affection, and comfort in her eyes. It struck him how much she had grown and how much she had influenced his growth as well. He realized that parenting was a two-way street. Children could teach as much as they learned. He felt pride, not in his wealth or achievements, but in the bond he was building and the lessons he was learning alongside his daughter. Later that night, the father tucked his daughter into bed. He stayed with her for a while, talking quietly about the day, sharing memories, and making promises for the future. He promised to continue being present, to listen, and to support her in every way he could. The daughter smiled, her eyes heavy with sleep, but full of trust. She whispered a small thank you, and he felt a lump in his throat. It was a simple word, but it carried immense meaning, acknowledgement, gratitude, and love. The father realized that the journey was far from over, but that the foundation had been laid. Emotional presence, empathy, and genuine care were now central to his parenting. He understood that the lessons he had learned from Emily and from observing his daughter's needs would guide him in all future decisions. He felt a renewed sense of purpose and a commitment to being a father who was not just present physically, but emotionally and spiritually as well. In the following weeks, the father continued to integrate these lessons into daily life. He spent more time with his daughter, listening to her stories, helping with school projects, and sharing small moments of joy. He allowed Emily to continue being a supportive presence, trusting her guidance and appreciating her impact. The daughter flourished in this environment, gaining confidence, emotional resilience, and a sense of security. One afternoon, as the three of them sat together in the garden, the father watched his daughter laugh freely at a small joke Emily made. He realized how far they had come from a place of distance and emotional absence to a space of trust, understanding, and love. He felt gratitude for Emily's kindness, for his daughter's openness, and for the opportunity to become a better parent. The father knew that challenges would still arise. There would be disagreements, disappointments, and moments of doubt. But he felt confident that the foundation they had built would help them navigate these challenges together. He had learned that love, attention, and emotional presence were more important than any material wealth, and that true parenting required humility, patience, and empathy. As evening fell, the father reflected on the entire journey. He remembered the first hug at the diner, the small moments of connection, and the gradual transformation in both his daughter and himself. He understood that life was not about grand gestures or status, but about the quiet, consistent acts of care and presence that created trust and emotional security. He felt a profound sense of peace, knowing that he was on the right path. Before going to bed, he checked on his daughter one last time. She was asleep, a small smile on her lips, her breathing calm and steady. He felt a surge of love and responsibility. He understood that being a good parent was an ongoing effort, but one that brought rewards far greater than any business deal or luxury he had ever experienced. He whispered a quiet promise to himself, to always be there for her, to listen, to guide, and to nurture the bond they shared. The next morning, life continued, but something had changed forever. The father was more present, more attentive, and more connected. The daughter was happier, more confident, and secure in the love of her family. Emily remained a supportive friend and guide, her kindness leaving a lasting impact. Together, they had created a small circle of trust, love, and understanding that would shape their lives in the years to come. The billionaire dad finally understood the truth he had overlooked for so long. Wealth could provide comfort and opportunity, but it could never replace the warmth of human connection. It was the small acts, a hug, a listening ear, a kind word, that built lasting relationships and shaped hearts. He felt hope, knowing that he had learned this lesson in time, and that his daughter would grow with confidence, love, and emotional strength. As he looked at his daughter sleeping peacefully, he felt a sense of fulfillment unlike anything he had experienced before. He knew that this was just the beginning of a lifetime of shared moments, of growth, of learning, and of love. The journey had been unexpected, emotional, and transformative, but it had led to something priceless, a strong, loving bond between father and daughter, nurtured with care, patience, and compassion.